Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. And today I'm going to walk you through how to girl math your way and 10x your trips or vacations you may have planned this year. Or if you are the responsible partner, I will teach you how to shut down your other partner's trips before things get out of hand. So there's so many lessons in this, so many lessons. So lesson one, uh, if you have multiple kids, stuff you do for one, the others expect you to do the same for them. It's a crazy concept. So we took Charlie on our oldest on a family trip when she turned double digits because we were excited. We have a kid who's double digits, and so we did kind of a big trip because I like vacations. But we went to Orlando and went to Universal, Harry Potter World, and Legoland, and Cocoa Beach, and like Kennedy Space Center. So that was a couple years ago. And pretty much like the day of Ty's ninth birthday, so our second youngest, she's like, I can't wait for next year when I turn 10. And we're like, why? Because it's a double digit. She goes, because we get to go on a trip. And we were like, oh, yes. Yeah, that's a thing that we accidentally established by taking, yeah, okay, yeah. So for months we're talking about like what kind of a trip, like it's fine. We'll go in November and we'll kind of budget appropriately and this and that. And so she's like, I want to go back to Legoland. And I'm like, no, no, we're not. I don't want to do that. Like, I'm a maximizer. I'm the type of person who, like, so we've gone to all inclusive 7, 8 times. I never stay in the same one. I'm always looking for the best. Like, I get mad if my family wants to eat at Culver's or Jimmy John's when we're out of town because I want to experience something new. And so I'm like, no, Ty, I don't want to do that. That was this. And so then she's like, I want to go to Disneyland in California. And I'm like, all right, well, at least that's different. Like, I do love Disney. Like, I'm not one of those adults, but I'm like one of those adults. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So we're looking at, as I'm looking at prices and I'm like, damn, like, just getting our family to California. That's going to be, and then tickets to Disney. And so it's going to be a lot. Right. So I have this reel that comes by my feed and it's Tokyo Disney. And I'm like, oh, that would be cool. So now this is for the responsible partner. This is where you need to pay attention. Okay. So what I did is I put a feeler out to my husband. Now, Kirby's my relationship is that he is the more responsible one. So like I know how we're doing financially and how much I can spend based on his reaction to my spending. So like, honey, I accidentally just spent $1,000 at Costco. Aw, honey, what did you buy? Versus like, what? What did you buy? Do you see the difference? Okay. So this is how I live my life. Which is really funny because my therapist would be like, talk to me about your childhood. Was that also true? And I'd be like, yes, yes, it was. But anyways, so I send this feeler reel out, okay? Just like, ha, we could go to Tokyo Disney instead. To which, if he didn't want this to 10x, he should have said, ha ha, would be nice. Maybe some other year. Okay. He did not. He responded with, actually, now is a really good time to go to Tokyo because their currency is collapsing. And y'all, my foot was officially in the door. He didn't say no. And within minutes, I was sending him Google flights and being like, it's actually not that much more expensive to fly to Tokyo. And these are the dates we could do. The girls would only. So great news, everybody. We are going to Tokyo. But now we had to have the conversation with Ty because like this is no longer a trip for Ty's birthday. So we're like, Ty, you can't tell people we're going. So like we talked to that was the other thing before so he didn't say no. I'm sending him Google flights. He's still not saying yes, but he's definitely not saying no when he should have been. And then I brought it up to the kids. That was the other thing I did. So depending on what side, which kind of partner you are, you're either you're learning tactics on either side, or warning signs and red flags. So I said because I wanted to make sure that Ty wouldn't be sad if we went. So I was like, Ty, would you be okay if we went to Tokyo Disney instead? And she was like, I don't know. And so then I showed her a bunch of reels and YouTube videos to get her super excited about it. The girls downloaded Duolingo. The whole family, minus Kirby, was learning Duolingo before Kirby had officially said yes or bought tickets. So, anyways, we're going. It's going to be great. But yeah, now we're like, Ty, honey, you can't tell people you're going to Japan for your birthday. And she's like, wink, wink, like, "Oh, okay." And we're like, no, 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 honey, this is not a birthday. Like, it happens to be around the time of your birthday, and we will not be buying you birthday gifts, but this is not your birthday present. Don't be coming to us when you're 13 and 16 and being like, well, we went to Japan for my 10th. So what's up next, people? Leave that to your mother to go to Kirby and be like, well, we took the girls to Japan for just kidding. Okay. So today on the show, we have Racheal Cook. She is an award winning business strategist, host of Promote Yourself to CEO podcast, which I think most clinic owners need to hear. And she's the founder of the CEO Collective. Racheal Cook is on a mission to end entrepreneurial poverty for women. But men, don't worry. We really don't talk too much about women specifically in this. We just got to talk about entrepreneurial poverty. That's a hard thing to say in general. So, over the last 15 years, she has helped thousands of women entrepreneurs design predictably profitable practices without hustle and burnout. She's a sought after speaker on entrepreneurship, marketing, and productivity. Racheal has been featured by the US Chamber of Commerce. You guys, I just don't know if I can talk today. I think this might be a me thing. Otherwise, she has just somehow created a bio that is difficult to read, but I'm pretty sure it's me. Um, Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, and Female Entrepreneur Association. When she's not helping women entrepreneurs, you'll find Racheal hiking along the James River and playing board games with her 3 kids. Holy moly, that should not have been as difficult as it is. Probably not enough coffee. So let's take a breath and pray. Dear God, we don't know what entrepreneurial poverty is, but I think I have it. Uh, be with everyone listening, male and female, business owners and non-business owners, to just pick up what they need to from this. Allow this conversation to be a conduit of what you need each person to hear specifically. So, God, I invite you to use this conversation to speak directly to the hearts of the listener and each give them what they need out of this. And just to continue helping all the chiropractors, clinic owners, associates, non chiropractors continue showing up for work day to day and learning to love what they do and find that balance, because we know that the Bible talks about work in a good way. And I feel like social media has just really, really just put this negative energy towards work, and it's all about like living for the weekend and getting away and going to Tokyo Disney. That's just my algorithm, not yours, God. I don't know. What do you think Jesus' algorithm would be? Like, would it be Buddha stuff? Like, would he follow? I don't. Anyways, we're digressing. God, just let me know what your algorithm would be. That'd be cool. So just continue to help us think positively about work, because it does serve you, and whatever our job is, it serves humankind, um, and the world in some way and form, and helps just put our impact and purpose into work. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. But for real, what would Jesus's social media reels like be? Be like stuff? Would he can you like pick anyways? Now I just have like that thought in the rest of my head that I'll be thinking. That's what ADHD, folks. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with Racheal Cook. Enjoy. Well, welcome to the She Slays the Day podcast. I'm glad to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here, Lauren. It's going to be a great conversation.
So I want to give you like the background on my day.
Okay.
So I get my kids off to school. I am training for a half marathon, and I was like, "Oh shit, I have to run 5 miles today." Which is like now I'm at the point in training where like 5 miles are supposed to be the easy runs, but they're not. I forgot it. And so like last night I had maybe one too many glasses of wine, forgetting that I had to train because yesterday was a really exhausting day. And then so I had to quick get a run in before we had a Zoom call with a technology company about implementing this like track stat thing in our clinic. And then like I had like 20 minutes to prep for this, and I'm talking to my husband who helps me run everything. Like I'm CEO, he's CFO in everything in all of our things. And I just like said to him, I said, like, what are we doing wrong? Like it all feels so chaotic right now. Like it just feels like we're spinning one plate and we're like, "Oh, okay," like, because we're going into we also have an Airbnb. And so we're about to go into, like, Airbnb season because 'cause we're on a lake in
Yeah.
Wisconsin, and so, like, now and so there's all these, like, construction projects that are happening, like, a week before people are checking in, and he's like, "So, alright, cement's getting laid, and then the girls have piano, and then remember" and I'm just like, "What are we doing?" Like, I think we're effing this up, and it's like, on paper we're nailing it. Like all these businesses and like money, but it just feels so frantic. And so I'm like, okay, we have to stop. I have to figure out what my next guest, what she even, because like I have people on talking about
Yep.
menopause, thyroid issues. And I look and I'm like, oh, she's a fucking C. Yay, she can help me. So I'm so glad that
I
you're
love
here
it.
today.
Well, you're not alone. I feel like this is such a normal thing for so many entrepreneurs is one, entrepreneurs love starting small businesses. I also run multiple businesses. In
Mhm.
addition to the CEO Collective, I have a commercial real estate business with several properties. I have an Airbnb business that
Yes.
I'm running. And I think this is totally normal. A lot of the entrepreneurs I know have a lot going on. But if you let these things take over your life to the point where you're feeling stressed, where you're feeling like completely not grounded because there's just more going on than your actual nervous system can take in that information and comprehend it, then you find yourself in panic mode. You find yourself always in that fight or flight response. And as business owners, that is the worst place we can be. We're
Yeah.
terrible leaders when we're in fight or flight because we start getting short with everybody. We start making decisions based in fear instead of based in like actual strategy and big picture vision of where we're trying to go. And it becomes this whole cycle that is non-ending where we're constantly telling to the people in our lives, well, when things calm down a little bit, then I'll have time for a date night. When things calm
Mhm.
down a little bit, then I can rest. When things calm down just a little bit, then I can come visit you, mom. you
Right.
know,
Yeah, and I'm
but it
like
never
14 years
calms
in, I'm like, I
down.
don't think it's going to. No.
It doesn't
Because
if
as
you
soon
don't get
as
intentional.
well,
Yeah.
because us crazy ass people, as soon as it calms down, we feel it. We like it's like as soon as my nervous system comes like has a moment to recover, I start a new damn project. So
Yep.
we're like okay, so I'm kind of like divided in between two different camps of like so we've got like the Layla or Mosey camp that is just like, I love work. The idea that you like we need to avoid work, like it's okay, just work all the time. I haven't taken a day off. And so like all right, so I'm like, okay, so maybe I'm just labeling it as hard and like it shouldn't be this way, but it's like, no, this is exactly what it is. Just embrace it and stop labeling it as hard and lean into it. I'm like, okay, there's one thing.
Mhm.
And then the other is I feel like this camp of like you're doing it wrong if you're working more than 12 hours a week. And like really this like nope, just buy my program or whatever like you if you put these systems in place, you should have perfect work-life balance and you really only need to work like 2 hours a day and you're fine. And I feel like there's lies in both and I don't like I'm meanwhile not executing either of them well and just sitting spinning my wheels in the middle.
I think there's a real danger in all or nothing thinking, but that's the way our society very much is built. It's either you're hustling the 80 hours a week, the whole hustle culture, grind it out, work, work,
Mhm.
work. I lived that. I started my career in corporate consulting, going up and down the East Coast, working with businesses and never having time for my husband, for my family, for myself, for my health. And then I got incredibly sick. And I know you are a chiropractor. I got to the point where I had severe adrenal fatigue. I was having panic attacks nearly every single week. And I literally had to go on disability for 3 months to get my health back in order
Wow.
because the human body is not meant to work 12, 15-hour days. But there's a lot of places where that hustle culture, yeah, there's parts of our careers and our businesses where it does take more effort to get things up and going, but that is not sustainable long term. Humans are not meant to work like that. It's just not sustainable for a lot of us. So I've been on that side of it. On the
Mhm.
other side of it, I think, the idea of just having passive income and, you barely work at all and you just outsource everything. I don't
People
think
really need to stop switching or intertwining passive income and side hustle because
yeah.
passive income is not that's
It's not
passive.
passive.
Right.
Let's be
Most
real. It's never passive. Most of the time to actually have passive income, like the best passive income in my opinion is when you build your business to the point where you are not efforting for that income. Your business is generating that money whether or not you work for your business.
right.
You are officially an owner. And even in the role of CEO of your business, CEO is a employed position of a business. So you're still working in your business. So I think we need to find a happy middle ground here. And this
Mhm.
is where I always start with my clients, talking about their definition of success. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what Layla Hormozi's definition of success is if that doesn't 100% apply to me in my specific situation. So when I'm looking at definition of success, there's a couple things I'm looking at. Actually, there's 5 specific things, and none of them are revenue because revenue is a terrible
Oh.
definition of success.
Well, I'm really
Revenue
glad you didn't ask me what my definition of success is first before you did this because I would have just embarrassed the shit out of myself.
Well, I think the reason why revenue is a bad definition of success is like anything, money is a tool that gives you opportunities to do other things. On its own, it's not very useful, but what it allows you to do is what's useful. So when
Mhm.
we're coming up with our definition of success, we're separating out like just pulling some number out of thin air. Like a
Right.
gajillion dollars sounds amazing, but do I actually need that? Is that actually required for me? A lot of people are surprised when they go through this process with me that when they get clear on their own definition of success, they're actually a lot closer than they might think they are to it because it's not always about having multiple millions of dollars. Believe it or not,
Mhm.
it really isn't. It's about having clarity about what matters most to you. So
And I
when I'm
do
thinking,
believe that because if you would have asked me right after chiropractic school, what's your definition of success? I would have given you 2 different numbers. I would have given you the number of
uh-huh,
patients I was seeing a week and the number of money that that clinic was bringing in a year. Now we got to that, and by no means did I feel successful or okay, cool, I did it. Now I just need to sustain. And so I believe that
yeah.
you would continue chasing this target and being like, well, no, not yet.
And the target is constantly moving too, because I
Mhm.
talk to so many business owners like you who are like, oh man, I thought if I was seeing 100 patients a week, that I was just killing it. But then you actually sit down and talk to that person and they're like, 100 patients a week is exhausting. I have like been on my feet all day. I can't think straight. It is too much. And you don't know often until you're in it what it's actually like. So sometimes this definition of success has to come from real experience and from time in doing the work to figure out what works for you and what
Mhm.
doesn't. So when I'm looking at definition of success, the first thing I look at is your life and lifestyle. How do you want to live? What's important to you here? Because for me personally, I'm a pretty simple gal. Like I have a house that we have been rapidly paying off to have it paid off as soon as we can. We live in a
Mhm.
comfortable neighborhood, but we're not living in like extravagant anything. We've always been very much like, let's live practically. I have 3 kids and let's keep our life really like under our means so that we're never feeling that financial stress.
Mhm.
But we do like to spend on things like vacations and travel. So I drive a minivan that just hit 100,000 miles. I will drive that thing till the wheels fall off. I don't care about cars. That is not important for me personally as part of my lifestyle. I don't care about designer anything. And the only reason I might have designer something is because someone bought it for me. Like,
Mhm.
that's not a priority to me. But having more time with my kids is. So for my lifestyle, it's having time with these 3 kids. My oldest are going into high school this year, which is ridiculous, but I only have a short window
Right.
before they're, like, launching into the world. So that's my priority for my life and lifestyle, is to live really comfortably, to have plenty of money to travel, to be able to pay for my kids to go to college or trade school or start their own businesses, and to set them up for success. But it's never for me about material stuff, because that's just not what I care about.
Right.
But the life and lifestyle, if you don't know what you want, if you don't know what you want your day to look like, what you want your, you know, average life to look like, you're gonna be struggling a lot there.
So I have a question. I want to make sure, like, so that was one of five. So we'll come back to that because my listeners are very used to me getting like
Yep.
ADHD and being like, Lauren, hold on, don't interrupt. But okay, we'll come back. But when you're coaching with someone, how do you coach them against comparison? So, like, if I sat down with you, I would be like, yep, this is the lifestyle I want. This is, yep, yep, yep. I don't care about this. I do care about this. And then what would happen is a month and a half would go by and I would be scrolling Instagram or whatever and see something and it would trigger like, "Oh, we should redo our kitchen." And
Yep.
like, and then all of a
It's
sudden it starts spiraling of like, "Well, we need more money. We need to this." And like, yeah.
I think this is totally normal. It's really hard to pull yourself out of comparisonitis, but if you can get clear on what your biggest priorities are, that becomes a litmus test for a lot of things. So, like I said, I live in a pretty normal house in a normal suburban community. This is not my dream house.
Mhm.
My husband knows it's not my dream house. We bought this house to raise our kids in, and it's in an amazing school district. So there's a lot of trade offs that went into picking this house. I could have gone off and found my dream house a while ago, but then I would not be in the school districts we wanted our kids to be in. I would be further away from my office downtown Richmond. So there's always going to be trade offs in different stages of life. But I
Mhm.
have to say, now that I'm in my 40s, I think this is something I've really come to understand, is that there's certain stages of life where those trade-offs make sense. In my 20s, we lived as simply as we could. And we had kids as soon as I started this business, which
Mhm.
was kind of chaotic and crazy, but I reinvested everything back into my business. So I did sacrifice on, some of the lifestyle things that maybe I thought I would want. And I drove that used van, the first one, into the ground. We lived in this small house. But in my 30s, as my business got more established, we were able to upgrade some things. So I'm okay with some of those trade offs. I think
Mhm.
that's something we all just have to be cognizant of. The reality is, time goes by so fast. And I know people say this all the time as their kids get older. They're like, watch out, and they'll be out of the house in a blink of an eye. They literally are about to be. And I'm like, you know what? By the time my kids are all done, I won't even be 50 yet. By the time all 3 of my kids are out of school, it'll by
I'll be
2030.
the exact same. I'll be 48.
Yeah, by 2030, all my kids will be out of school. And I'm like, perfect. I will have plenty of time to enjoy the dream house
Mhm.
and not have to worry about what school district it's in, or have to
Yep.
worry about it has, everybody has their own room and bathroom. Like, it'll be a different stage of life. And I'm willing to kind of have some of those trade offs in that.
Yep. So just like reminders, just monthly reminders. And like you also don't know what that person's trade-off is.
You
Like,
don't.
and like that's what we want to do. That's what social media does, right? Is it's just like you just see the prioritizations. You don't see the sacrifice. So you don't know, like you just see they have the dream house. You don't know that they didn't go on vacations for 2 years to save up for that or whatever.
Exactly. You have no clue. And the other thing is, in our current stage, like, a lot of the beautiful houses we're seeing right now on Instagram or whatever are in very different areas of the country that are super accessible and affordable. A lot of these big, beautiful, homes, if I were to try to buy an equivalent thing here where I'm at in Richmond, it would be 2 or $3 million,
Right.
right? So it's like, you have to kind of weigh those things and decide, like, for me, living in a city I love was a huge priority. Being able to walk where I want to go, huge priority. So there's always some little trade-offs there when it comes to life and lifestyle, but I kind of look at it as the different phases of my life. Each decade has been a little bit different for me in this regard. And by staying focused on like what's important to me right now, it's really helped me to not get too caught up in comparisonitis.
Right. Okay, so what's the second thing?
The second thing is health and well-being. And as
Oh
someone
god.
who
I
struggles
would
with
have
chronic,
failed this success thing so bad if
it's
you'd have
not
asked
about
me.
failing, it's about getting clear about what matters to you, right? And for me, I mean, I had that horrible situation in my 20s where I was just struggling with adrenal fatigue. I was completely burnt out. A lot of people don't realize it takes up to 3 years to heal from burnout. Burnout is an actual condition that the World Health Organization has said this is the epidemic of our time. People are overworking and they're not resting. And even more for women, we tend to believe we have to earn our rest. Have you ever felt this way? Like, even on days where you're trying to take off, you don't let yourself just relax and instead you find other tasks to do.
Oh,
My
yeah. I have
husband
a
makes fun
major,
of me
like,
for this.
9 to 5 issue of, like, even on my days off, like, because I'm not adjusting patients 2.5 of the work days, but, like, on that day, I better be being productive, and I'm not gonna rest until, like, it's, like, 5 p.m. My head is still, like, and then I talk to
Yeah.
other chiropractors who are trying to become CEOs, and one of the things they really struggle with is those days where they're not in clinic. They feel so guilty, like their staff is
Yep.
like, "Well, what are you doing? Are you still
Yeah.
working?" And they're
This
like,
is huge.
"Oh." Yeah.
This is huge for people across the board. And I think as a leader, especially if you're a leader and you want to be leading a new type of business culture and really facilitating that, cultivating that in your business where the people that are working with you feel taken care of, they feel like it's okay to take a day off when they're sick. Like honestly, there's nothing worse than being in an environment where people feel like if they're sick, they still have to come in even though they're going to get everybody else sick.
Mhm.
Or if they're going through a really tough time and they actually do need like a mental health day or they need a day to deal with grief or whatever's going on, like I don't wanna be that kind of boss. I wanna be the kind of boss that people are going, "I love working for you because I know if something's going on in my life and I need to go take care of this, it's okay, and you're gonna encourage me to prioritize my own health and well-being as much as you prioritize yours." So a lot of this too is leading by example. And when
Mhm.
it comes to health and well-being, I think for me, this is not about how much you weigh at all. I want to put that caveat out there because I think for a lot of women, that's where they go is being healthy equals a certain number on the scale or a certain size. I believe you can be healthy at any size, but I do believe you need to be thinking about your mental health, your emotional health, your physical well-being. You need to be nourishing yourself, eating things that are healthy for you that are going to give you the energy that you need. We all know what it feels like to eat like garbage and then
Mhm.
have 0 energy to get through. I know that when I am eating really well, when I am making sure I'm going on my walks in the morning and I'm getting enough movement throughout the day. I even have a treadmill here in my office so that I can get a few steps in between calls. I am so much clearer and so much more focused and have so much more energy, but I have to prioritize it. So, what does that look like for you? What does your health and well-being look like for you? And as you navigate this as an entrepreneur, if you're traveling a lot, if you're on your feet a lot, if you're in a chair a lot, like it's really easy for this to be something that we just brush under the rug and then one day we wake up just realizing, "Oh my god, I felt terrible for so long. Why haven't I taken
Mhm.
care of myself?"
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think that it's a really interesting time for this conversation because, and what you brought up was like, okay, it's not weight because I'm thinner than I've been in 5 years. Thanks, Ozempic. I'm training for a half marathon. So, like, again, but I literally had to cancel going to a speaking engagement last month because I had like unexpected like heart stuff. And it was just like, damn, like that's not like that. My brain was like, I want to go. I want this. I got this conference. I got that. I got this. I had this. And my physical body was like, I'm really not digging this. I'm
Yeah.
not loving this.
We need rest at the end of the day. Like, we really need to take amazing care of ourselves. If we were taking care of other people, we often take so much better care of them than we take care of ourselves. And this is something that's really top of mind for me, being in my 40s now. Also, I have elderly parents who are not in great health. And
Mhm.
so I'm constantly looking at the result of a lifetime of not prioritizing movement, of not eating well, of overindulging in alcohol and other things. And it's really hard to watch that. And then on comparison, I see like my in laws who they get up every day. They live near the beach. They walk on the beach for an hour. They are very, very healthy. They're very active. And I'm seeing the differences in my
Mm.
own family between people who have prioritized their health and well being and people who didn't. And I can tell you the people who have are going to have such a better experience in their 60s and 70s and 80s than the ones who might not make it that long.
Yeah,
And
it's sustainability.
it's crazy to think about because we all think we're gonna live forever, but
I
I
don't know that we
know
live that way though.
we
We
wanna
don't
live
live as if
well.
we want or like I don't think like if you ask someone, how long do you think you're gonna live? Like, I don't like if you ask me that, I'd be like, I don't know. At this rate, probably like hopefully 70. Like, but it's like,
Yeah. No,
okay,
I
but
think
what
I'm
if you
gonna
were gonna be around until 100? Then I might actually start going like, oh, well, if you told me I was gonna live till 100, I might need to change some things
yeah.
because like I think I'll burn out way before that.
And I fully anticipate that I will live past 100. My 95-year-old grandmother is about to turn 96, and she just moved into an assisted living facility last year. And up until a few years ago, she would go out on a walk every single morning with her little dog, Gretchen, and they would do a 3-mile loop. And she was just one of those incredible people who aged incredibly well because she was active. She loved going on walks. She was around friends all the time. And I see this correlation. There's a great documentary on Netflix right now that's, I think it's called Live to 100. It's about the blue zones. And the
Yeah.
things they talk about are so simple. Like this stuff is not about trying to biohack whatever. It's
Mhm.
about, walk a lot.
Mhm.
Gardening's so
And
good because
and they're
you're doing the
working still.
squats
They're
and getting
still
up and down.
working.
It's
But
having that mental engagement is
mhm,
huge, and having community is huge, which is the 3rd part of my definition of success. What do your relationships look like?
mhm,
What are successful relationships for you? This is really important. I'm at a stage right now where I'm having a lot of friends going through horrible divorces. I've seen friends, lose a partner. I've seen people go through crazy stuff, and it's so much easier when you have a real support system. So what do those
mhm,
relationships look like for you? Like if you're married or in a relationship, a romantic relationship, what does success look like for that? If you have children, what does success look like in that relationship? I'm so aware of this right now because teenagers are notoriously challenging, but
mhm,
I want my kids to always feel like I'm their number one fan. I'm the person they can come to. And even their friends feel that way. Like we have purposefully set it up so that the kids know I'm the person they can come to. And then
mhm.
having friendships. Friendships are really hard as an adult. Having good
Yep,
friendships
yep, they
takes
are.
effort. It takes so much effort. But the last few years has been so important to me because I realized I can talk to my husband about a lot of things. We've been together for how long have we been together? 26 years now. But there are things that like I don't just wanna talk to him about. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm,
there's nothing better than having other friends who you can just vent to, you can talk to, but it takes time to find them and cultivate relationships. Now that I've done that, at least every week I'm having lunch with somebody or having coffee with somebody. We go on little trips together. We have parties together. Like, we do things together that are so much fun, and I always have somebody just to text away. If something's going on with me, I can be like, "Oh my gosh, I just need to talk through this."
mhm,
And vice versa. I think that is one of the biggest things that for me that really dictates how successful you are is do you have people who are there to show up for you? There was a great quote on the Dare to Lead podcast with Brene Brown, and she was interviewing Esther Perel. And Esther Perel talked about, I've got millions of followers, but no one to feed my cat.
hmm.
What does that say about the state of relationships? We can't confuse all the people who follow us or all of our clients or all of our audience with actual real community. Like humans are community beings. We need those real relationships.
'Kay. So number 4.
Number 4 is creativity, is
Okay.
having a creative outlet. This is another thing I feel really strongly with. I think a lot of people have gotten so laser focused on business that they've let go of all the other things that actually make them interesting humans. And like, think about when you were younger, what were the things you loved doing? What were the types of activities that got you excited and inspired? Inspiration is one of those things where if you're doing a lot of output in your business, you need fuel. You need creative fuel for it. And often the best ideas for my business, they come when I'm not doing anything business related.
Right.
I love to do this is so funny, but my husband got me these Lego flower sets
Yes.
and I have, like, all of them now,
Your
but
children didn't take that over for you? Because I also
no.
got given that Lego flowers. Well, okay, take that back. We went to Costco. I specifically went there to buy this damn Lego flower set,
Yeah,
and then my kids are like, "That's cool," and I'm like, "That's mom's. That's mine.
yep.
I'm gonna do that." And we got home, and I didn't get to put any of them together.
Well, then you just have to get yourself another one because it's so much fun, and I've started doing these things, I think engaging with creativity can be as simple as going and buying a fun Lego set, right? It can be getting a paint by number. It can be signing up for a pottery class. But these things engage a different part of your brain and help you stay fresh and have new ideas and new inspiration. It's kind of like sometimes, the best ideas come to you when you're in the shower or when you're doing something completely
Mhm.
unrelated. I find that engaging in creativity is just really, really powerful for entrepreneurs because we are creatives. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're running. You are a creative and you need to have creative problem solving skills in order to grow and scale a business. So in order to have those creative problem solving skills, you need to engage that part of your brain as much as possible or else you'll find yourself in patterns that they may or may not be working, but they're in your comfort zone. They're familiar, so you just keep going back to them. I also love engaging in creativity because it encourages us to be a beginner again and to fail.
Mhm.
And failure is really important for small business owners to embrace. I always tell people failure is first attempt in learning. And there's nothing better for learning to overcome that fear of failure than exploring creativity and thinking about, I've never painted before, but I'm going to just play with this and see what happens. It doesn't matter what the end result looks like. It's about the process of putting yourself into that zone where you're stretching, right? You're not
Mhm.
in your comfort zone anymore.
And I feel like, I don't know, I mean, I guess I was a super like, a lot of this type of entrepreneur was probably a high achiever in school type of thing.
Mhm.
And so, like, I say in the beginning, I was more comfortable with failure, but actually, I don't know if that's true. Like, I was a student who expected A's. I don't know that I ever have been more comfortable with failure. Like, it's
It's
and
really
that puts a lot of stress on of, like, not wanting to start a new thing because 'cause you're like, "But what if it fails?" And it feels like this public rejection, and yeah.
But each time you're leveling up your business, like
Mhm.
you have a clinic, when you go and have to sign that lease and invest in the build out and buy all those tables that are so expensive, like suddenly that's a huge up level.
Mhm.
And our brain is wired for our comfort zone to keep us safe. And if we don't learn how to push it out of the comfort zone and get used to these up levels, if we don't stretch ourselves in other areas, then we get out of practice and we end up in that comfort zone for a really long time. I know the
Mhm.
people I work with, the women entrepreneurs that I work with, they end up with these big visions that are going to take them a long time to really achieve. But each part of that vision is like a little jump up in doing something new and trying something out and pivoting their business or going in a new direction. It's going to take a lot of courage. And so creativity helps you build that courage because it's helping you strengthen that muscle and helping you get out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, that comfort zone, I don't know if people realize that they've been sucked into it.
Yeah.
So, like, because it sounds so, like, duh, but, like, we avoid feeling uncomfortable.
Yep.
We label discomfort as well, and social media is happy to tell us that. If you're uncomfortable, you're doing something wrong. This should be easy. If this is
No.
hard, you're doing something wrong. And so like a lot of time now obviously there's also the opposite of that message of like, but like so often it's like, oh, this feels clunky. It feels like I'm failing. Like I was telling you how my
Yeah.
morning has felt of just like, so what naturally wants to happen is to just shut down, to shrink,
Yep.
or there's like imposter syndrome, like another, so not necessarily the failing, but just this like, it's that I feel so uncomfortable here. And that is labeled as bad. It's
And I
labeled as
think
bad.
especially for high achieving people, if you were one of those people who was used to doing really well without having to try too hard. This was me as a
Mhm.
student too. Me growing up, I was a straight A student, gifted kid in all the advanced and honors stuff. If you are one of those people, the minute you hit your first dose of like resistance, it can really mess with you if you had
Mhm.
excelled without really having to put in effort. It is a process of stretching out of that comfort zone. When you're stretching out of that comfort zone, the first thing that's going to pop up is fear, giving you all the excuses. This feels too hard. This is uncomfortable. This isn't going to work for me. All those excuses. And most of us, the minute those excuses start coming up, we just retreat. We go back into the comfort zone. We're saying, this is too much. I'm just going to stay here. This is what I know, even if it's not really working for us. But really, once you get into that fear state, you need to pause, ground yourself again, get out of the fight or flight, get into your ability to stay focused and to attack things head on and go, okay, what's the actual next step to get more comfortable with this? It's learning. I need to get into
Mhm.
that learning zone and build whatever skill this is. So this is why I love the creativity because creativity is learning to build skills. It's learning to
Mhm.
try things. And you need to go through that learning zone before you can officially be in the growth zone where you're getting the results that you want. So it's a process. The fear can very quickly kick in and have people retreat and go backwards when really they need to kind of go, okay, what do I need to learn here so that I can really discover if this is for me, if this is going to fit or not? Once you can get through that learning zone and into action, that's where the real results come from.
Yeah, the reason also love that you have creativity in here because um so one of the thing, and don't worry everybody, we will get to number 5. We will get there. So, one of the things I observe in female entrepreneurs is
Mhm.
so entrepreneurship is very much so a lot of people will call it masculine energy, feminine energy. I'm trying to like use more alpha energy and omega. So, that alpha energy is timelines, deadlines, like the
Mhm.
alpha energy just crushes entrepreneurship. Like it really is a huge part. And so, if you're a female and you are an entrepreneur, you are very likely dominant in your masculine or alpha energy and
Mhm.
probably crushing, not in a good way, not crushing, but like crushing your feminine energy or your omega energy on a daily basis. And one of the huge things that will physiologically lead to burnout
Mhm.
without a doubt is throwing off your hormones like that, not just cortisol,
Yep.
but like, estrogen balance, testosterone balance, and all of that. And so one of the ways, I definitely am, I will joke and say that like I'm a recovering alpha male. Joke, I haven't don't make it as much anymore because 5 years ago that was a lot more kosher joke. But like but one of the things is like when you lean into like, okay, so how do I recover myself, my entire self? Somebody who loves to lean into work and do this, creativity is the number one thing, or creative outlets is the number one piece of advice that is often there to like build up that omega energy. And I think men need to hear this too, because like, like, yeah, if you're just in that masculine, like you're not going to be balanced. And so that creativity, that outlet is what actually continues to make you hormonally balanced and avoid burnout, but also just that better leader.
It's hugely restorative. And it builds resilience, which as leaders, we all need. So I find that creativity is one of those things that some people, especially in that like old school hustle mentality, they're quick to dismiss it because they'll think, "Oh, that's silly, that's frivolous. Who has time for that?" But the reality is like think of a lion. If a lion is out on a hunt, they are doing a short, intense burst of energy to go get that antelope. And then what are they going to do? They're going to nap for the next 20 hours.
Mhm.
Okay. It is not natural for us to think that we're supposed to be on all the time. We need these restorative practices to really help us increase our resilience, to rest, and to show up better in all the areas that you want to show up in.
Okay. So what's number 5?
So, number five, I think, is however people want to say it, it's spirituality, it's connection to yourself, connection to something greater than you. I think for a lot of people, they start to really feel like they're losing their way. Again, coming back to, I don't think revenue is the best definition of success. I tend to catch people once they've hit a massive revenue goal and then they're standing there going, what's next? Like they're kind of lost because they realize, okay, I achieved all this financial success, all of this
Mhm.
outward success, but internally I feel empty. Internally, I feel disconnected from myself. I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't feel fulfilled or like I've actually done what I'm supposed to be doing here on this earth.
Right.
This is one thing where the comparisonitis is so dangerous and where chasing, you know, a revenue goal all the time is so dangerous because you don't want to hit the end of your life and be like, no one really knows me. They only know CEO version of me, but I don't really have anything else. So I think we all need to cultivate these practices of, if you want to call it a spiritual practice, a religious practice, some sort of practice of self-reflection. So what does that look like for you? I'm not particularly a religious person, but I do a lot of journaling, a lot of mindfulness practices, and because this is such a big part of my definition of success, I know that every quarter I'm taking myself on a little retreat where all I'm gonna be doing is taking time to really reflect on how I feel about what I'm doing, how my relationships are going, how I feel like I'm giving back.
I would
Am I
start so
aligned
many
with my
businesses that
values?
weekend. I love this idea. I'm like, "I am totally gonna do this," and then I'm just like, "Oh my god." I would come back with 17 ideas and just be like, "Alright."
And that's okay. Like, some people are meant to start lots of things. I know right now I would rather do just a few things incredibly well,
Mhm.
and have plenty of time for the other things that are important to me. Ultimately, this framework for asking yourself your definition of success, okay? Looking at your life and lifestyle, looking at your health and well-being, looking at your relationships, looking at your creative outlets, looking at your spirituality, your connection to source or to yourself. These are all about building resilience. These are all about really making yourself the type of leader that people want to work for, that lead incredible businesses, that are really able to make an impact in the world and being able to do it long term. Because at the end of the day, you can burn yourself out in a couple of years of hustling,
Mhm.
80, 100-hour weeks. But go talk to people who've been in business for 30 or 40 years. They're always going to tell you it is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You've gotta learn to pace yourself. You've gotta learn to build in recovery, and you've gotta have that long-term vision of what you're trying to accomplish and be comfortable taking some time to get there in a way that feels the best for you.
Mhm. So I've been working with a coach lately, who is trying to get me one to have some kind of daily grounding thing. He's like, do you meditate? Do you read? Do you journal?" I'm like, "Well, I read fairy smut, but I don't think that's what we're talking about here." So what is your like daily? Because I also don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fairy
What is?
smut is absolutely a rest activity. I am obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with it. The
What's your
ACOTAR
favorite?
series
Oh,
was
it changed my life. It changed my entire identity.
Reading is one of my favorite hobbies, and I go through a ton of fiction. And people laugh at me because they'll come into my office and I've got like a wall of bookshelves with all of my personal development and business and strategy. And then they come to my house and it's all like smutty fiction. But again, this is a huge part of building up your resilience. It's a way to
Mhm.
take care of yourself. I call it my brain bubble gum. Like it's just easy to digest and
Yes.
it's a fun, relaxing pastime.
It's
So
yeah. It's
yeah,
also
I
help the
think
hormones, but yeah. So what is your daily practice? What's a good daily practice to start with for
yeah.
somebody who doesn't have any kind of thing?
Well, one, you don't need like a huge involved morning routine. I think people have overcomplicated all these things so much.
Mhm.
I think you just need to start with know yourself. I need a little bit of quiet time every day. I am super introverted. And again, I have 3 kids, I have 4 pets, I have a husband. Like there's a lot going on in my life. So for me, the best thing for me in the mornings to get grounded is really to wake up slowly.
Mhm.
Nothing is worse to me than feeling rushed. And I know a lot of working parents feel like the first like hour of their day is the most chaotic thing on the planet. We have eliminated anything that could make our mornings chaotic. We have streamlined it so much because my husband and I get up, we've set our coffee pot timer, we can get up and sit with each other in a cup of coffee, we can have a little conversation. I often read or journal in the morning before the
Fiction
kids
or
get up.
self-help?
It depends. I mean, it really depends on what I'm feeling like. Usually I leave fiction for night because it helps me wind down.
I need
But
to have, like, better guardrails on the
yeah,
fiction. Like, literally, I have not read a good, like, self-help book in, like, a year and a half because it's like, well, I'd rather find out what happens in the next chapter. So I more discipline in the
well,
morning.
and I tend to like currently I've been creating a new training for my clients on CEO leadership, on being a grounded leader. And so I've been reading a ton of different leadership books and taking my notes. And my morning is my best time. It's when I'm the most fresh. So I'll do some reading in the morning, I'll do some journaling in the morning, but I make
Okay, I
it
have a
as
stupid question.
slow
What are
and
you
relaxed as
journaling on?
possible.
What are I'm just not a journaler. When people say they're
I'm not
journaling,
either.
what are you doing? Like, what?
I'm literally getting all the thoughts out of my head. I do find that if you're someone who's not a natural journaler, sometimes it's helpful to get something like the 5-minute journal is a great one because it's focused on like what are the top things you're focused on today? What are your things you're grateful for today? What would make today amazing? Like those kind of prompts are really helpful if you're not
Mhm.
really a journaler. But I tend to do a gratitude journal a lot. I make it a goal to ask myself, like, what am I grateful for every day? I also ask myself in my journal, and I have it in my planner that I've designed, what were my wins for today or what would make today great? So I use those as prompts just to kind of set my day up. I really feel like visioning is such a powerful process. And if I get up in the morning and I'm like, okay, here's what I want my day to look like. This would be what makes today amazing. Is there anything else I need to make today amazing? I'm getting that clarity right at the beginning of my day. And I can also decide in that moment, like, I can check in with myself. How am I actually feeling today? I've got chronic pain and fatigue. So some mornings, especially if I haven't slept well, I can wake up and know, oh, I'm not going to have energy to do that interview today. I'm not going to have energy to do all these things. I'm going to need to move some things around. So
Mhm,
this is
mhm.
just a chance to check in with yourself instead of just launching into your day without asking, like, what do I need to take care of myself given where I am in this moment?
Um, so how do you help people break out of this productivity addiction? Because like you even said, like we're overcomplicating the morning routine. And like so when I have a coach who tells me like you need a morning routine or like you need some kind of grounding thing, I'm like, okay, so like what would that look like? Like 10 minutes of this, 10 minutes of that, and then 10 minutes of this. And then I can be like, did it, check, next.
Yeah. I think the problem with productivity in general is about getting all the things done instead of getting the right things done. And so we have to start being able to discern between all the things and the right things because the 80-20 rule always plays out. There are always going to be a few small things that you focus on that make the biggest impact for you. And there's a
Mhm.
million other things you could try to do to make that same impact, but you want to figure out what really works for you and hone in on those critical few versus the meaningless many, right? Like you really don't need to do all of the things. And that's why I keep it as simple as I can. I think this applies to your life in the morning, in the day. This applies to your business. It's really easy to overcomplicate your business. I see this all the time. People come up with these to-do lists and they never question, is that thing actually working for me? Is that actually getting me clients? Is that actually growing my business? Or is this just something I've put on my to-do list because I feel like I should, or I was told that this is what I should be doing? I think we need to get really, really critical and ask ourselves what actually moves the needle for us and let go of anything that doesn't. A great example of this, that's a very practical example, like basically ask yourself what gives you energy versus what depletes your energy. I go through my whole day asking this. Again, I'm chronically ill. There's a lot of energy management going on. But
Mhm.
things that deplete my energy, I don't want to think about food. I hate thinking about food. Trying to figure out what we're going to make for dinner is like the most exhausting thing to me. We
Mhm.
love a meal delivery service. We love the Hello Fresh or whatever because it takes that off of me. It's not something that gives me joy or that energizes me. It just becomes another task on the to-do list. So I ask myself that about everything in my life. I ask myself that about everything in my business. Is there something in my business that is just depleting me and doesn't actually give me energy or make me better at what I do? Then I go, do I need to outsource that? Do I need to hand that off? Do I need to just not do that anymore?
But a
And
lot of times
suddenly
you
it frees
can't
up.
just not do that. Like, especially in, a small business like chiropractic. Some people like might say, in order for me to be the CEO, well, adjusting, like literally adjusting patients is getting in the way. So they may not like it's not like they hate it, but it's exhausting them.
Yeah.
And so they can't get out of that loop, you know?
Yeah.
And so what do
So
you do then?
this is where we have to figure out what our capacity is, right? I know some people who can see so many people in a day. For me, I've got a limit. I've got a call limit on my calendar for how many calls I'll do a day, and it's 3.
Mhm.
Once I get beyond 3, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
toast. I need to go lay down on a floor. So I know that everybody has a different capacity. As you're growing your business, you need to be aware of that capacity and how it impacts your business. So if you are someone who has a low capacity dealing with that many people in a day, how many people would you say you see in a typical day in your office?
Like 85?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I would not even function.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed. Like, 1, it takes a certain type of personality and energy type to be able to handle that much peopling. But if you're realizing like that's too much, you get to decide, okay, well, what is the right amount for me? And does that mean I need to bring on another chiropractor? Do I bring on
Mhm.
an associate? I can stay focused on being the CEO and growing the business. That doesn't mean I need to deliver to every single person. It
Right.
means I need to transfer the trust for the people coming to this chiropractic clinic so that they feel comfortable seeing my associate chiropractor. And that's how you can grow that. I do the same thing within my coaching business. I don't do one on one coaching anymore. Everybody comes to work with us in our group program and they get one on one support from our team of coaches, but they're not getting one-on-one from me every week or every month. That's just it doesn't fit for my energy or my capacity. So I think there's always a way to get creative with that and figure out how to make it work for you. And it's probably going to mean you need to build a team to take on some of that workload.
Mhm. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, do you feel like one of the things I'm 37, you're in your 40s. I feel like it's easy for us to go like, okay, you need balance, we need all this, but we worked our asses off in our 20s. You talked about living small and hustling, and what I see is younger generations almost wanting to skip over that. So like, yes, do you hate hustle culture, or do you feel that there is a time for it? That's my
Mm.
question.
Okay, I've got an answer for you that might take a minute for everybody to follow me here. I'm not a fan of hustle culture, but I am a fan of mastery.
Okay.
Mastery, I think, is what people are really at. When you're starting your business for the first time, you're starting your career for the first time, there is a whole lot more that you don't know than you know. And there's no replacement for that experience. The whole saying it takes 10,000 hours to become an
Mhm.
expert at something is absolutely true. So I really think the first 3 to 5 years of your business are just getting really, really good at your craft, at your thing that you are supposed to be the expert at. Because no one rolls out of, chiropractic school, or in my case, getting an MBA and is like an expert mastery level
Yep.
in your 20s. Like that's
So you
just
gotta
not
do
how
the
that works.
time.
You got to put in the time. But there's a difference between putting in inefficient time
Mm.
and really powerful time. So I also have a background as a musician. I have a performance arts degree in French horn performance
Oh.
alongside my business degree. But I can tell you there's a reason why I love working with people who have a performance background, whether it's music or dance or people who have sports background, because they know there's a difference between practice just to log the hours versus practicing with the intention to make it perfect. Right. And if you're
Mhm.
practicing with intention to make something perfect, if you're a musician, it looks really boring because you're doing the fundamentals over and over and over again. You're a runner. How often do you have to do drills and do things to improve like the smallest little part
Mhm.
in your running? So it's not just about going out there and like you said, you had a 5 mile run today. It's not just about going out there and being like, checked off the box, I hit a 5 mile run. It's about going, what is going to actually make me even better at this? What are the nuances here that I need to focus on? When you focus on mastery, you actually don't have to just put in hours for the sake of putting in hours. You're not just focused on, checking off a box. You're focused on practicing with intention and getting really, really good at that thing. So I think all small business owners need to understand that. The first 3 to 5 years of your business are just mastering your craft. The next 3 to 5 years of your business are starting to really master running a business. It takes time. You can't skip it. And you can't just outsource these particular areas of mastery. Because if you bring someone into your business to now do the thing that you've been doing, let's say you're bringing a chiropractor into your clinic, now you've got to be able to transfer your mastery to them. You've got to be able to
Mhm.
train them in your unique way of doing what you're doing, right? So that every person who comes in your clinic is getting the same level of care. That takes time. And same with the business side of things. Like if you bring people on to run your business, you have to be so clear about how your business runs and what gets results in your business that you can then transfer that to them. And this is how you're helping build those skills for them of nuance, of context, of discernment, so they can make better, more strategic decisions versus just do everything. Throwing everything at it, it doesn't matter what it is, what goal it is, but just doing all the things is never going to be as effective as learning how to practice with intention.
That's a phenomenal answer. I've never had someone, really explain it that way, and it makes so much sense. And honestly, just even talking about like the morning routine where it's like if you're just doing it to do it, like it's just another thing that you're crossing off, then it's just going to become another thing
It's just
in
another
this,
task
like
on the
it's just
list.
another task on the list. But if you're doing it, like what's the intention behind it? You're trying to master connection, you're trying to master grounding yourself for sustainability, and just applying it. And that's one of the other things, I'd kind of said that, like the person I'm coaching with, there you brought up like making sure that you're doing what matters. You brought up Pareto's principle, but like, so I'm supposed to pick like 2 to 3 things a day. And I'm like, but I have 17 things.
So you can try them on, right? This is also part of this journey of, really self mastery, self leadership is saying, okay, here's all the things I've thought of that I can try. Maybe I'm going to try these different things on and do little experiments and see what I really, really like. For me, I discovered I really need slow mornings. And
Mhm.
so it took me a while because I used to be, let me have all these things lined up and do all this stuff in the morning. And then I realized, you know what, that just doesn't work for me anymore. So I think you do have to be willing to experiment a little bit. Sometimes you'll have more ideas than clarity until you put it into action. And then if you put it into action, if you have 1 week where you're like, "I'm gonna try this version of the morning routine." The
Mhm.
next week, "Okay, here's what I liked, here's what I didn't like, here's how I'm gonna tweak it." You iterate and then you find the thing that works for you. And once you find that thing, it's amazing because you unleash so much more creativity, you unleash so much more energy, you unleash so much more focus, but you have to be willing to take the time to figure out what works for you.
I love that. Okay, so where can people get more of you?
Well, you can always find me over on my podcast, Promote Yourself to CEO. We have hundreds of episodes over there about business strategy and how to sustainably scale your business without the hustle and burnout. Would love to see you over there if you're a podcast listener, which clearly you are.
You're here, you're
Um,
listening.
and you can come over to our website at theceocollective.com/hello. We have a landing page there for all of our podcast interviews, and you can get kind of a snapshot of the different types of things we do at the CEO Collective and how we help women entrepreneurs to get really intentional about how they're going to sustainably scale their business.
And you don't do one-on-one coaching, but do you have a coaching program, or is
Yes.
it always
So
open, or is it only
we
once a
have
year?
We have a program called it's the CEO Collective is the name of the business and our core coaching program. It's group consulting for small business owners. It's a 12-month program where we help you implement what we call our 90-day CEO operating system that is all about taking your vision and your values, breaking them down 90 days at a time, and implementing the client growth engine, the team growth engine that you need to scale your business and have the CEO leadership you need to navigate all of the discomfort, the ups and downs, and everything that comes with scaling up your business.
I love that. All right, Rachel. Well, thank you so much. This was a very well-timed episode. I appreciate you answering all of my questions without shame and judgment. But I have a feeling you see this like a lot. This isn't.
All the
This
time.
is. I mean, it's unfortunately so common. So common. And, like, I think we both agree that, like, women, we just try and do it all a little more than, no offense to the men listening. Um, we just struggle to delegate, and, it's just easier for us to do it ourselves and all of that, all of those
That's
things.
literally how women have been conditioned for hundreds of years is to be the people who take care of everything. I mean, our entire economy has been built on the unpaid labor of women. And I'm here to advocate for more women to reclaim that control and say, nope, I'm not just going to hustle harder for someone else's benefit. I'm going to take incredible care of myself while I grow my business, while I build my own assets and my own wealth, and do it without burning out.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time. We'll have links to your podcast and stuff below. She Slayers, go listen, binge that podcast as well, and let her know your thoughts. Subscribe, follow, all of the good things. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thanks for having me.
All right, She Slayers, until next week. Bye.